it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter your history, nothing matters that you've already done. All that matters is like what you do with now. I was very embarrassed sort of around my name, my heritage. Obviously my name's Hercules, and it was quite abnormal growing up. The idea of a 5k, 10k was not just all that scary, it was that's impossible. Everything's sort of saying maybe just don't do this, and that was kind of like, let's figure it out, let's find a way to make it happen, because that's what's going to make it rewarding. So my name's Hercules Nicolaou. I'm a Cypriot who was born and raised in London. I'm a founder of a business who is going through a pursuit in endurance sports. So yeah, I'm somewhere in between an entrepreneur and self-proclaimed athlete, if you will.
I think a good place to start is where in the world are you right now, and what have you just done?
Yes, I am in Australia. I'm in Sydney, and I've just ran Sydney Marathon, which was an unbelievable experience.
Did you ever think when you started kind of like on this athletic journey that you're now on, that you'd be traveling the world and running marathons in these amazing places and meeting the amazing people that you're seemingly meeting when you're traveling across the globe?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, for me, the idea of, and a lot of people have probably said this, the idea of a 5k, 10k was not just all that scary, it was that's impossible. Like, that's never going to happen. And coming from someone who was very unathletic, in a bit of a hole in my early 20s, for me, it was just like, I need to get out and try something. I need to get a little bit more physically in shape. And it was just, oh, well, I think people run to do that. Let me go out and see if I can do it. And, a kilometer was impossible. And, gave up, went back out, maybe a kilometer and a half started to happen. And then you go, oh, okay, right. I think running is the most blatant display of consistency rewarding you. So and then it was the 5k, the 10k, and my first race actually was a run-through half marathon in Vicky Park, and I remember being so scared of like 21k, and stuck with it. And within that, I think we're very blessed in this community that there's a lot of really good people. It's not ever me versus you, it's you versus you. So everyone is very welcoming and wants to see you win. So yeah, you go to these events like Sydney Marathon and you meet so many amazing athletes and people running for charities and loved ones. And it's just, I'm so thankful to have started this journey.
You mentioned that kind of being in a bit more of a difficult place in your early to mid 20s. Where did that stem from?
I think it was very early on in my adulthood, if you like, or teenage years going into adulthood. I was I wasn't a confident guy. I was very embarrassed sort of around my name, my heritage. Obviously, my name's Hercules, and it was quite abnormal growing up. And I was very sort of like a bit of a larger kid, and I kind of just wanted to be the same as everyone else and sort of hid behind, try to be the guy that's funny and try to be liked by everyone and go into every party and all these things. And eventually it compounds, and I realized sort of in my early to mid 20s, I really don't like the life that I'm living. I'm not proud of the person I'm looking in the mirror. I know that I'm not being genuine. I'm warping myself to try and be what I think everyone else would want and like me to be. And ended up like, I was pretty overweight. I was in debt. I was lying to people about not wanting to come out of the house and just saying that I had stuff on when really I was just laying in bed all day. And it sort of switched for me one day that surely the pain of changing and going out and working out and eating healthy and all these things that are uncomfortable must be harder than the pain of maintenance at this point. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for me, I guess, in terms of trying to get fitter and into fitness. And Yeah, so just I guess a lot of people in their 20s have probably experienced similar, but I think we all want to be the same as everyone else and blend in and follow the same path that we think success is, which might be, job titles, money, status. Are you married and have kids? And I see 20s now as it's a bit of a, for me, I see it as the rehearsal to the main act. And now I've come into my 30s and I'm like, okay, I can take all this experience, I can take these things that I've learned and apply them. They were never mistakes or bad decisions. They were more like lessons that grounded me into being a better man. So yeah, and I know a lot of people have been through similar to me. So yeah, there was times when it was really dark, especially like coming into COVID, living alone, being isolated where I was, not telling people how I really was feeling, and just trying to take it all on yourself. So luckily for me, I went out and put some shoes on and started running, and it kind of became that meditative mindfulness, because I'd tried all the YouTube videos. I tried to sit there and meditate. I'd read all the books, and I couldn't switch my mind off. And I remember going out for my first sort of like 5K, and at the end of it, it was so difficult, it was so hard, but I remember saying to myself, oh, I just didn't think about anything for half hour. That's pretty nice. And then it like switched that this wasn't just a physical thing. So yeah.
It's dead interesting, that idea of like learning the lessons in the 20s and then kind of applying them to your 30s, because we had a little chat before I hit record on this, and we were kind of mentioning about like running a marathon and kind of almost feeling comfortable like you did in Sydney.
Yeah.
And that's when you can kind of look at running and life as an analogy, if you will, because you wouldn't have run that marathon like you ran it if you hadn't run marathons before and realized, right, I need to go a little bit easier for my ability to go out and enjoy this thing. This isn't a thing I'm going to race. I'm just going to run it at 70%. And it's like you learn these lessons through running that you can apply to running. And it's the same with life, isn't it? You learn lessons through life that then you look back and apply to future.
Absolutely. I've always said the byproduct of going out, and maybe it's not running for everyone, but the byproduct of like movement and what it does for you chemically in your brain, let's say, but also it's more a confidence thing to go out and say, okay, I've got a tempo 10K today. It's going to be really hard, but you lace up and the thoughts start coming in at 3K, and then at 5K, and then at 7K, and then at 8K, and then you're like, nope, I'm not giving in. It gets to 9K, and then it's done, and then it's almost evidence of like, okay, I can do what I said I set out to do. And then you do that at 7 a.m., you walk into the office and you're feeling like the man. And it's like your work improves because you're like, yeah, I can do the stuff that I say I do. So I think running implements it's implemented in my life in much more ways outside of fitness than fitness. It's been outstanding for my confidence, and I don't mean as like in an arrogant way. I mean to be able to walk into a room and say how I feel, to be able to have awkward conversations, to be able to make quite ballsy decisions at work. It gives you a bit of it gives you a stack of like evidence that you can be the person that you want to be. So I think movement is so simple yet so powerful. Like it really is.
It's that constant state of proving to yourself that you can without like the need of anyone telling you, well done, isn't it? Because you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I thought an hour ago I couldn't do that. You go out and you absolutely smash a session that you never thought you'd be able to do. It's that self pat on the back almost, to be like, hey, I can actually do these things.
Yeah. Because even when you get comfortable with them, like Sunday when I ran Sydney, at the start of the race, I didn't know if it was going to be a good or a bad one. I woke up super nervous, hadn't specifically trained for this marathon, and I was like, we're either going to have a really bad few hours or it's going to be kind of cool. And even when the start line goes, the first K or two, like, okay, cool, it's feeling all right. You never know how it's going to go. And that nervousness is always there, I think, no matter how quick you get, no matter how comfortable you get with a distance. Even 5K on my training plan, some days is I'm going down the lift in my flat with a nervous belly, like, I don't even know if I've got this in me today. And so crossing the finish line or stopping your watch when the session's done, whatever it is, it's such a rewarding feeling. It's like very unique, I think, to anything else.
So we kind of spoke about Sydney Marathon. You've mentioned kind of training towards something as well. Tell us a little bit about what that is, man.
Yeah, so currently I'm training towards what was supposed to be a 360 kilometer run, but it's actually turned out to be 400 kilometers now. Yeah, it's a full run, the whole length of Cyprus, which is sort of where I'm from. So I'm a Greek Cypriot, from the top to the bottom, with Movember. So we'll be raising money for men's mental health. Yeah, so it's going to be sort of my biggest feat yet. Definitely the toughest challenge, but something that I'm really excited about, because it's not just going to be about going out there and slapping miles down and it looking good and it being, you know, a nice pace. This, to me, is a very important message as to why I'm doing it. For me, it's quite a full circle moment to... I used to leave London a lot and go to Cyprus as a bit of a hideout from reality when I was in sort of not the best way when I was younger, as I mentioned earlier. And I would kind of go there and would escape reality, drink a lot when I was there, go out, do a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do now. So for me to sort of go back and own where I'm at now and go there with purpose and intent and sort of complete this run is, it's pretty special to me. And to be able to work with Movember, raise money for them, it's, really exciting. Scary, for sure, but exciting.
When did you think about this idea? Because I'm sure it's been kind of culminating in your head for a little while, kind of circling around there. When was the idea first formed, and when did you then think, I'm actually going to do this? Because there's a bit of a journey between those two things, I think.
Yeah, so it was quite a while ago. It was probably just after New Year's, so sort of January. I had this urge to, kind of got addicted to pushing myself and seeing how much I can really get out of me and how far I can really go. Because I think when you're so far on the other side of the pendulum and you're almost addicted to other things and going out and covering things up and sort of like doing anything to not feel, the sort of pain you're going through, it kind of, that energy shifts. And, you see a lot of people who go on to do these big feats or ultras, a lot of them come from, some form of trauma in that sense. So for me, I had the itch to do something big, but I also didn't want to rush into anything. I wanted it to be meaningful. I wanted it to be personal to me, but also to be able to help people. So it was, tons of research, and it was, okay, no one's ever done this before. Why has no one ever done this run? Because there's loads of elevation. Cyprus is actually split into two sort of countries that a lot of people don't know. You have North Republic of Cyprus, which is Turkish owned, and then you have the Greek side. It's really hard to there's only one point of the border that you can cross by foot, so it adds a lot of miles on, and it's quite a difficult run. So we'd kind of sized it up, and I just said to myself around my birthday when I was 30 in Feb, this is the one I want to do. This looks difficult. Everything's sort of saying maybe just don't do this, and that was kind of like, let's figure it out. Let's find a way to make it happen, because that's what's going to make it rewarding. So it's been on the backbone for a while. We're doing it in December because it's probably the best weather there, because it's just basically too hot any other time of the year. And just to give me enough time to prep as well, really. These sort of big ultras are a very different ball game when you start getting into the triple digits, and you're not just learning how to run at this point, you're learning how to feel. You're having to become a pro at recovery. So it's been a whole year of testing different sort of methods and theories about how we're gonna get it done. So about nearly a year in the making.
How does it look then? Because obviously 400k, to put it down pretty well, how's it going to be split up? Like what's that sort of plan, or is that still kind of in the formulation at the moment?
Yeah, so we're pretty good with it. It's we're looking at roughly 70k a day. There was the argument to just do more quicker. But for me, I actually felt that was an amount of miles that I could actually enjoy as well, and sort of still be present, and then start early, be done by afternoon, recover, be there with the team, be there present in wherever we are in the country. And, when you start doing 100K a day, it's 12, 13, 14 hours running, and it's just, you're not really in the experience. So yeah, we thought 70K is a good level, and then the days are kind of split around where the elevation is. So there's certain days where we're climbing a lot, and then there's other days where it's a lot flatter or we're declining. So the route's kind of been split that we climb peaks, we kind of finish there where the rest is needed, and then we start the next day sort of maybe descending back down, because the route kind of starts quite a high up at a peak. So we spend the first 70K descending down, sort of through trails and a bit of forest. And then we have to cross the border, so we have to add on the 40K through a city. From the city, we get down onto a coastal run, so sort of running along the front for like 200K, and then it just elevates back up to the other side. So we're seeing it's all kinds of terrain and a lot of stuff to get used to, which is not the same as running around East London or Vicky Park. A lot of different terrain and stuff. So yeah, I'm nervous for sure. I'm going to be honest. I'm very nervous, but confident as well.
It's so funny to hear you talk about splitting up there, and then you just said it sounded like basically, yeah, you turn left, hit the coast, 200K. You're like, oh wow. Okay.
It's because I've looked at that route so many times. For me, it's just the 200K slab now, and it's like, yes, it's 200 kilometers. It's insane. It's crazy, and I never thought that I'd be mapping something like this out, but yeah, here we are.
Yeah, sick, man. And look, I obviously you're gonna raise a load of money for an amazing charity, and that's part of the reason why you're doing this. But at the finish line, which I've got no doubt you'll make, what do you hope to maybe think at that moment, and then think Christmas time this year, looking back at it, what are the things that you hope that this is gonna bring you?
Yeah, so primarily for me, it's when I look back at 20, 21, 22, probably 23, I felt quite isolated, whether that was self-induced or not. I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could look to or relate to go, okay, right, almost like a big brother as such. For me, if I can finish that run and have guys that are where I was 8-7 years ago, feel inspired to pick up a pair of shoes or to plan their own thing out, or to raise some money for November as well, or call their dad and tell them they love him, whatever it is. For me, it's like the job's done. Obviously, it's a massive personal feat for me, and there'll be a lot of reflection on the guy who first tried to go out running, who couldn't even look at his reflection in the mirror to be doing this. And that's a very personal part of it to me, which there'll be a lot of that. But the main objective is I want to be the person that I felt I needed 7-8 years ago for guys to look to and go, okay, cool. I've watched his journey. He showed us who he was before. And if he's done that from a very unnatural background, that, all the sort of roads for me were not leading there. And for me to divert myself and take control of the wheel, and if that helps other dudes do the same, like, I will sleep very well at night after, for sure.
I think that's probably already started happening, and that must almost be a bit of a weird thing to deal with as well, that people are now looking towards you a little bit sometimes, and they are, looking to you for inspiration and thinking maybe I could turn my life around and get kind of half of that mindset that Herc's got right now. What is that like when people kind of say it to you, drop you a DM, see you in person? Like, that's got to be a bit odd.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal because, you feel a sense of, what's the word? Responsibility. Like when I finished the marathon, I I was like, oh, I just want to smash a tub of Ben& Jerry's and have a few drinks and whatever. And you kind of feel like people might look up to you like this athlete, as I've used before, or this guy that never does any of these things. And for me, sometimes I feel like, oh, do I have to live that certain lifestyle and like only show these guys always working hard and pushing it? But on the flip side of that, you know, I get a lot of DMs from younger guys and even sort of like older dudes as well that are like, here's my longest run I've ever done. I saw like this reel you done, and you know, I went out and I did 8K, and I'm just like, yeah, that's it. That is just like, it's not about the recognition. It's not about that they watched my video. It's not about any of that. It's about, okay, cool, that video hit a few people that felt like it drove them to go outside and go and get it as well. So I like forever grateful for that. Never take it for granted. And, you know, actively have a lot of conversations with people in my DMs around these type of things. And they come back round a month and they're like, took your advice on board, just did the first half, it's pictures of the medal. And it's just such a cool feeling. Like it really is. It's almost, I'm getting something out of it selfishly because it's nice to feel good about what you're doing, but at the same time, it's so rewarding for the other person as well. So it's like this great mutual exchange of just really good things happening. So yeah, I love it, but I do find it weird sometimes because I still have mornings where, you know, I nearly didn't come Sydney, and I actually was in the airport and had a full wobbly because I was like, oh, I feel really tired. I don't really know if I can go run a marathon, and I was really stressed about it. And then I realized I hadn't done my visa probably, and my girlfriend was like, just relax and just go and get on the plane, because I was like, I'm not going. I can't do this. And, you know, so I still have these, you know, moments as well that can be difficult as well. So when people are always looking to you for inspiration, sometimes you almost feel like, okay, I've got to keep the wheels on. But I mean, it does keep you accountable. So there's kind of, it's like a blessing and a curse to always, you know, be a role model. But I think that's the realness in it as well, is like, even the people that you look up to are never 100% all the time, ever. Anyone that you see on the internet is not. And that's a really important message as well, because it breaks that relatability barrier that some people feel like they can't achieve what these people are achieving, because sometimes we only choose to show the good, but there's a lot of, you know, there's a portion of bad as well, of times when it is hard. So I just always want to make sure that I keep that wall down as much as I can.
Yeah, man. And like you say, it's that relatability. And I think when you can look at somebody like yourself that is being very open with every part of their life and their training journey, and even you just saying there, look, I was sitting in the airport thinking, I don't want to go to Sydney, I'm knackered. And to be honest, you probably were pretty tired because you just done the speed project in France, which I'll mention shortly. But
yeah,
like to it's almost, again, like we're going back to the journey of like just getting out for a run. It's just that initial action, isn't it? So like, you had this opportunity in Australia, you were feeling like, maybe I don't want to go, but then you took that action and you went, and now you're here and you're loving it. It's like, when, like later on, I'm probably not going to want to do my session. I've got a bit on this morning. I know I'll go downstairs, I'll sit on the bottom step, I'll sit there for 30 seconds. I'll think, oh, I just don't want to do this session. It's gross. I hate it. And then I'll get out and I'll do it, and then I'll enjoy it. And that's kind of that thing, isn't it? It's just, you can put that to everyday life, which is crazy when you start relating back all the time, but it is so relatable. Yeah,
man, you're so right. Like, with everything in life, the hardest step is like always the simplest one. It's like clicking record on a podcast and just starting to talk, or just like crossing the start line at a marathon and, you know, putting your shoes on, getting on the flight, whatever it is. They're such simple actions, but they're so daunting. But then when you do them, you're like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. Oh, actually, it feels quite nice. And then all of a sudden opportunities come, and then you go, oh, why was I even worrying about that? And I think we often suffer more in our imagination than our actual, like, real life reality, because we make these scenarios up and we think that when you're in a bad sort of way, you're almost gravitating towards more negative. It's a lot more apparent to you. But when things are good, well, the good's a lot more apparent. So I think you have to remind yourself when you're not feeling yourself, or you're feeling a bit tired or a bit down, to not let that be the motion of the day, and just to try and steer towards, right, what's there to be grateful for, what's there to be positive about, and lean into that. And you can kind of flip it on its head. Like, as you said, did speed project, come home, had one day with my girlfriend, straight to the airport, was feeling really negative about it, and then I just got on the flight. And since I've been here, I've seen some friends that I haven't seen for years. Actually ran a marathon that's given me a lot of confidence in my running ability at the minute, and all these things that have happened, I'm here on a call with you. So these opportunities wouldn't come if you didn't take the first step, and that's all it's about in life. Just taking the first step. Most of the time people don't know what they're doing when they take the first step, but they were just the ones that were willing to take it, really.
Talking about steps, because I'm sure that email dropped into the inbox talking about the speed project, and you're like, well, this is an opportunity that I didn't think was going to come, but here it is. Like, a lot of people know the speed project from LA to Vegas. This is a little bit of a different one here in Europe, which, to be honest, I think looks absolutely sick. It was amazing. Just explain the concept of the speed project, and where it was from to, and why you were there.
Yes.
Just give me a bit of a background, man.
Yeah, so the speed project is a relay race with no spectators, no rules. It's free ball, and traditionally teams between 4 and 6 runners, and you'll go from one location to another that's usually very far away. So we ran from Chamonix to Marseille, which was around 450, 60 kilometers. And it is such a unique new experience in running, because it's really not about, oh, how good can I run? It's how well can we work as a team? How well can we motivate each other and keep morale high, and all of these things. So we had 2 vans. We had 2 vans that had the team split. So we had 8 runners, and it was one van would drive ahead a couple of hours, and then we'd have 4 runners in this van, and it would be, okay, I'm going to go out and get 5K. You're going to go out and get 7K segment, and we move around. And we started in Chamonix at midnight, or it was 2 a.m, and you're running through the French Alps. It's beautiful. There's wild animals around, and the views are the sun is rising, and it's just so picturesque and unbelievable. But then it's 10 a.m. You've been up all night, and we got another 280 kilometers to run, and whatever it is. So it was a lot of it. It's all around teamwork and helping each other get out there and get the steps in, maybe taking segments that people aren't comfortable running, and making sure people have eaten enough. The crew was so important. We had such a strong crew with us that drove the van where we needed to, and made sure we'd eat and made sure we were hydrated. We're taking pictures, not having to worry about anything but just getting the run in. So the crew was unbelievably important. But yeah, I mean, for us, it was 40 hours, no sleep, in a minivan. You can't lay down. There's no rest. It's just you go, I go, and as soon as I get back in the van, I'm in Google Maps loading up the next run, sitting there just eating something. So yeah, it was a beautiful experience. The team at TSP, how they run it, it's such a community. All the teams are in one group chat, and it's not competitive, and they're talking to each other along the way. If you stop past this road, grab a pastry from here, or this team's coming in, let's go and cheer them on at the finish line. And it's had this beautiful after party, and it was something that I will it will go down in the books as such a unbelievable experience that I'm just so grateful to have been part of. Very, very intense, very rewarding for sure.
What was it like hitting that finish line altogether?
Oh, honestly, it felt like we were just never going to get there because it is all on foot, and it's, you know, you drive ahead when it's not your time to run, and you're thinking, okay, cool, we're 40k ahead. And then in your head, you know the difficulty or how long it takes to run 40k, and it's like you're doing that 11 to 12 times, and it was just slowly chipping away, and it just felt like you didn't make progress. And it's a good analogy as well for anything else. You feel like you just didn't make progress until one day we just opened up the map and went, oh, we're nearly in Marseille. Zoomed out, oh my God, we've ran from Chamonix. This is actually insane. And when for the last kilometre, the whole team got out of the van, all the crew, we all ran it in together, we all touched the finish line, and it was really emotional, man. It was like, we were all just like, couldn't believe that we done it. We were so happy to be there, and like knowing that how hard it is to get out of the van 32 hours in and go and drop a 5 to 7k when you are absolutely cooked. But having people there and friends there to go, you've got this, you got this, and like hyping you up to the point where you're like, right, yeah, okay, I can do this. And then all finishing together, holding hands. It was like, yeah, a very intimate, emotional experience for sure. Yeah.
We'll finish with this, man, because I think zooming out, like you just said on the map there, seeing that Marseille's right there, that's such a nice analogy for kind of where you've been over the past 6 months, and probably looking back then over, you know, a little bit further, because you've had these amazing experiences, you've been to these amazing places, you've done insane things, and that's going to continue throughout this year.
Yeah.
Do you ever get a chance to like zoom out and think, man, like Herc back from X amount of years ago would never think he was here today? That must feel quite cool to just think about that, zooming out and thinking, wow, look, even for what I've done in the last 3 months is crazy.
Yeah, that kind of, yeah, that was quite weird hearing you say that, actually. That actually gave me a little bit of a shiver, because I don't stop and think enough, actually. And yeah, I think it's important that we all do, whether that be whatever small gains we make. You know, most of the time, the gains that we make, we think are something that's impossible until it's done. And yeah, 6 months ago, you know, I was plodding along, wasn't quite the runner that, even a year ago, wasn't the runner that I am now. But, you know, didn't really quite think I would be at these events that I'm like watching and seeing, and the brands that I'm like, oh, wow, it's crazy. I'd love to work with these brands, like, and go and run with them. And, you know, I think it just proves that it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter your history, nothing matters that you've already done. All that matters is like what you do with now, today. And if you can hit every day with that level of consistency, you will eventually, it's inevitable that you will reach that target. So I think it's quite, when you do zoom out, yeah, you are right, it is quite, wow, this is incredible. But I think it's just concrete evidence that if you stick to the plan enough, you know, anyone can achieve any of these things. There's no difference between me and literally anyone else that's listening. I'm not a talented athlete. I'm not a talented content creator. I'm just someone that, you know, has done their best to remain consistent throughout the times when I have felt like I didn't really want to. So yeah, it's cool. It is cool for sure to be here now. And I just try and remind myself that when I look at other people that might be doing even bigger runs or bigger work with even different brands or have more followers and all this, I just remember that, like, I used to think this number and where I am now is insane. So you have to remember that when you get here, you know, this is where you want it to be. So don't always look forward. Sometimes actually just look in the moment and go, yeah, we're here. This was the goal 6 months ago, and just be proud of that rather than always looking for the next one.